Tasmania is just a biodiverse ecosystem of abundance. We're so lucky to get a really good variety of species so concentrated to our little island down here. I love the ocean because I've grown up on the ocean my whole life. My family were sailors, so I have very vivid memories of being out on the water from a very young age. Recreational scuba diving was one of my first jobs out of school. I own a commercial dive company with my partner, and our mission is to give back to the marine environment that we love and we want to protect so much. Once you do start to move offshore, the ocean definitely gets wilder, it gets more alive. You can really notice the tidal shifts and the changes in the thermoclines and see it on the surface of the water. You can notice there might be more species surfacing or flying around that you haven't necessarily seen closer to land as we kind of move out. And of course that's more predominant in a marine protected area because you know you've got not just more species transiting, but more species that are comfortable there and can stay there. They're very exposed and they're also right in the path for larger offshore vessels with capabilities to fish for longer and deeper. What happens in the deeper water on the offshore coast areas that we don't necessarily see as people on land really does affect biodiversity closer to shore. Tassie has some really fantastic offshore marine parks which have been protected for some time. It's really important to have these spaces for biodiversity, and it's really important that we continue to protect them as much as we can.
These deeper systems out across the continental shelf, we really know nothing about. There's really no one looking at them. And I find that really exciting, being one of the first explorers in that kind of area. People study the tuna populations and things that have got some economic value, but there's really no one out there looking at how the benthic systems work, the rocky reefs across the continental shelf, you know, what structures those. So the work that we've been able to do, particularly with the support of Parks Australia and work in a range of the Australian marine parks around Tasmania and around the rest of Australia, you know, we're learning so much about how those systems actually function. I'm Associate Professor Neville Barrett. I work at the Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies at the University of Tasmania and have done for a long time. So, you know, I've been working on a range of things over many years, mainly reef ecology, particularly with respect to marine protected areas, but also estuarine biology and ecology and fish biology in general. So a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. But no, I'm excited all the time. I'm still like a little kid in a candy shop, you know. There's so much to see and do. Last weekend I was out there diving for fun with friends, you know, diving with seals playing around us, and it was just magnificent. You just learn something every time you go in the water, and I just love learning. There are two kinds of marine park in Australia. One is the state government parks, and the other one is the Australian government's marine parks, called Australian Marine Parks. The state parks, they protect an area of coastline, actually the physical coastline itself, and maybe 100 metres, 200 metres, even a kilometre offshore. Some of them can be zoned, and some of them can have zones where you can still fish. The Australian Marine Park Network's a bit different in the sense that that doesn't start until you get out into Commonwealth waters. Now they're defined by how far you used to be able to defend your territory using a cannon. An old style cannon would shoot 3 nautical miles to sink a ship, so that's where Commonwealth waters start. We're starting to build up understandings about, you know, why some species live where, and really again how important these habitats are. Yes, we're not diving it physically, you know, which I'd rather be doing, but we are actually able to have quite a detailed look with remote operated vehicles, with baited underwater vehicles and autonomous underwater vehicles, little automated submarines that go around taking lots of pictures of the seabed that helps us better understand what's going on. You know, what lives where. Some of the commercial species, and we're understanding now what structures their population, what it is they're responding to. Is it, you know, upwelling from a nearby canyons bringing in lots of nutrients and therefore, you know, a bait fish for them to eat, or are they responding to the complexity of the structures? We're finding, beautiful big black corals on some of the deeper reefs in eastern Tasmania. Once you get beyond 65 metres, that we're finding these things really build up. We do this work partly in that hope that, when it comes to rezoning, to assessing the effectiveness of zones, the research that we do is effective in informing that. Do we need higher levels of protection? Are there demonstrated impacts on key species? Because there aren't very high levels of protections in many of the parks. So if there are obvious impacts, then, can we increase the levels of protection, at least in some of the parks, to better understand what's going on, but also to have other areas just protected for the overall conservation benefits going forward. And likewise, while we certainly do hope to, inform and influence management decisions, because that's what you do any kind of science for, really. You hope to have an impact and an effect of what you're doing. But we certainly hope that what we're doing within the parks is invaluable in actually managing all the areas off the park. Because, I always hate the idea of just having these oases in a desert. We don't want to clear forest the rest of the world just to have a kind of, wonderful little thing here. We want to make sure that all of Australia's waters are managed sustainably, and hopefully this information will be key part of that.
Our ocean is definitely facing a lot of challenges, and those challenges are compiling and getting more noticeable the further how we go along in our life and in our lifetime. I know I've seen a lot myself. When you consider things like climate change, you've got species moving to different areas or species shifting. We've got ocean acidification, warming temperatures. There's a whole stack of challenges that are facing our ocean, and as humans, it's up to us to do what we can to promote a healthier ocean. And one of those ways we can do that is by expanding our marine parks and sanctuary zones to give shelter and provide protection to those key species that are making up our food webs and are contributing to our ocean health. We need to do what we can to then keep everything level and balanced and working in harmony together. If we can increase the protection in our southeast marine parks, we can set an example to the rest of Australia. We can show that we're serious about marine protection and that we want to see these areas protected for our futures, for us, for our children, for their children. We want to really get on top of this. We are in a very unique place to be able to change the course or alter what's coming for Tasmania and really protect what we can.